slightly adventurous in that I haven't really done exactly this thing before. So here's the game right now. You move back and forth, and when you right click, you get this obnoxious window over the top, but it works and it has a click handler, and you can turn it off by right clicking again. And yeah, so I'm going to actually use that. I was thinking one of the things that makes this genre of game fun is building stuff. And in order to build stuff, you have to have items, and in order to have items, you have to have an inventory. So I'm going to see how far I can get with building an inventory. So just one moment. Okay, so for the inventory, there's sort of two major pieces. There's the data and there's the visualization. For data, well, the other thing that's tricky is I need to have actual items that you can store. So let's one step at a time. So here we have all of our stuff, and for our components, we're going to have a inventory component, and this will have a list of items, and each well, so it's actually, I have done this a little bit before. So if you're gonna have stackable items, it makes sense for it to be maybe stackable here. Well, actually, whatever. Let's call it item stack, and influence component. I don't really know exactly what item stack is going to look like yet, but let's say, let's get started. So it's not going to be a data class because, well, actually it could be data class. I was thinking data classes are immutable, but that's not necessarily the case. That's just usually how I make them. That is how you create data classes, right? Sorry, hold on a second. Yeah, okay. That's strange. One thing I need to do real quick is I installed the 1.0 version of Kotlin, and I need to actually update my config file to point to that version. Whatever, I'm not actually worried about this one, but so it might be sort of in a weird state. Anyway, so data class is supposed to work. I'll just hope for the moment, and it's going to be, so the type of the stack will be invariant. It won't change. I always do this. Okay, this is a Java file. Okay. That's obviously, okay. Yes. Kotlin classes work much better in Kotlin files. So now we have a val item type, and I'm not really sure what this is going to look like just yet. Let's say, this isn't very scalable exactly, but let's say it's an enum class. And right now it's just dirt and wood, let's say. And there's a variable amount. And usually you'll have like a stack size of 1, and if there's 1, you would just say 1, or you wouldn't show anything necessarily. You would just not show the number. So, but like if you have some things that don't stack, like there'll be other logic somewhere else that says how tall a stack can be. So let's not really worry about that for right now. Okay, so we have our item stack, and it's type dirt or wood, and wood is either lumber or sticks or I don't know. And so here we have our inventory component with our items. And so now if we go to our character, well, let's just wherever that is, game initializer. In addition to player component, you can say inventory component. And this takes, well, it doesn't actually need to take a list, it just needs to have a list. Okay, there we go. So now it has a list of items. So now here, let's just, for starters, give the player, and this is, it is okay to create little helper methods on your components. It just has to be, you don't want it to be like business logic. It should just be, simple stuff. So, just like item type and amount, and then you just say items.add. I've been using Java long enough that I'm pretty sure, Kotlin, why you do this? Okay, now it has an add method. And we just want to say item stack of item type and amount. And like, one thing, like a little, I always think of like a little minutia edge cases. Like if you give the same inventory player person 2 stacks of the same type, like you could just merge them all and keep it in sort of a hash map sort of thing, but that's not necessarily what the player wants. If they want to split a stack, they should be able to do that. Anyway, so here, instead of doing that manual list manipulation stuff, I can just say give, and the player will start out with item type wood and 5 wood. And the reason why I say this isn't very scalable is because if you ever want to do like mods or something that has a new item type, then you won't be able to, you can't subclass enums, and it's just, and also even if I'm not doing mods, if you want to have like a text file or a save game or whatever that represents what sort of items are in your inventory, then I don't know, it's very hard coded where you might want to actually say, you might want to have a JSON file that says, just more sort of descriptive text instead of having code that describes your content. Okay, so when you run, it still works. I mean, nothing is different, but it doesn't crash, so that's nice. So the next thing to do is to actually get this to render on the screen. And the way we do that is we start over here in the player controller system, and we say, let's say key down. When we press the I key, we want to open an inventory. We already have HUD. This is another video I haven't published yet, but HUD keeps track of all the menu state, and we are creating a new menu. So we want to say HUD dot toggle inventory, and then we want to create this method. So here, let's move this up a little bit. There's already, the way I usually prefer to do this is to have a single table that exists in perpetuity, and just add and remove elements to it as needed. So here I'm going to copy some of this stuff up here, and I'm going to create a new menu type here. This sort of assumes that it sort of assumes that you can't have context menu, the right-click menu, and inventory open at the same time. But I don't know. Well, I mean, there will be context menus inside of the. I don't know. I'll come across that bridge when I get to it. So if it's not equal to, if the current menu is not equal to inventory, then make it equal to inventory, and do some more stuff. So the inventory is going to be, I'm just imagining it like a very basic, like 3x10 grid on the screen, and when you pick up items, it shows up in a slot, and every slot is the same size, and every item is the same size. Maybe later on there'll be larger items that take up like 2x2 slots, like a Diablo or some RPGs will have items of non-uniform size. You have a big weapon, it's 2 wide and 3 tall. Anyway, so the way tables work is they're like HTML tables. They've got width and they've got columns. So I'm going to say width is 10. Yeah, that's big. Let's try 8. Rows equals 4. Width in columns, height in rows. Size is going to be like the number of pixels. 32. 32 times 4. It's 120 something. That's not too bad. I can also see how it looks later on. So what you do is you say row, 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 or sorry, not row, row. You just add cells, and they get sort of stacked laterally, side to side. And then you say row, and it's sort of like a line break. So we want to start with height, actually. So we want to say for y in height in rows, for x in width in columns, we want to just go ahead and say add some sort of actor. I'm not exactly sure what the right choice is here. I'm just gonna say text label for now, and for the oh, this is sun.font. font. Okay, maybe it's just label. Yeah, there we go. And I'm gonna say just like X and skin. Width in columns times, and then after that, we just say row. And if you want to modify the row, like the row here, you can say it says indicates that subsequent calls should be added to a new row, and returns the cell values that will be used as the defaults for all cells in the new row. So like you see here, you can say, you know, width, and you can create the max width, and various things that make sense eventually, but I am not there yet, and so I'm not going to fiddle with it just yet. And okay, looks good. There's one extra row at the end, but maybe that won't matter. Something else that I find very important to remember to call is pack. This really just sort of like, every time you add an element, it doesn't resize the parent necessarily. And so you call pack to sort of make sure that everything is actually fitting appropriately. It fixes all the widths and paddings and all that stuff. So I'm hoping, I didn't use the size parameter, but I'm hoping it'll look like a grid. Okay, well, that's I guess it's a grid. Let me see if I can make this less ridiculous looking. So the nice thing about the Scene2D stuff that LibGDX provides is you can really just sort of size the parent, and then the cells inside of it will automatically figure out the right sizes for themselves. So actually, like, I could set the width wider here, and I might still do that. But the other thing that you can do is just like it, right? If you just set the width of the table, then everything inside of it will be stretched out. By default, it'll be stretched out to meet the size of that table. Assuming that you know what you're doing. Maybe I don't need to call pack. Yeah, see, it's not even centered. Maybe I need to call row first. I'm not gonna spend too much longer on this. It's not really like, I think I can just set the size of each individual cell. Okay, well, maybe this is setting the default size. What happens if I just set this to size? Well, I think that worked. So it's only working on the first row because I need to do the same thing down here. Ta-da! Let's see if I can also do the height. And maybe there's even a padding attribute. Pad size to float divide by 10. 3 pixels on each side. Oh, I need to do that same thing on the other things. That's right. Okay, I mean, it's super basic, but that's beginning to look like an inventory. Also, I think if I move this up here, I can get rid of this. And there's also, It gets called once per row before the row. So I think that's what I think there might be an extra row at the top now, but if it has nothing in it, then it's not really, it's like it's not really there. Okay, that looks pretty good. If I go ahead and turn off this debug crap, then look at it again. And I mean, so at some point I want to add borders, but you know, there's that's not really important. That's not going to change the way that the game works. Okay, so in Scene 2D, there's a bunch of different types of widgets, and well, they call them actors. I think it's linked to from here. Okay, so what I want is I want two things. I want the image to show up for that item. If it says wood, I want there to be like a little icon there. And so I think image is probably a pretty good start. Here it says it can be a texture region, etc. Okay. That sounds like exactly what I want. So it takes a texture region, and let's go ahead and do that. My asset manager, let's see, just a dirt inner. Like if we look at dirt inner, that's the number 35. I mean, it doesn't look like, it's not grassy. Maybe we want the grassy one. 5. Sure, let's do the grassy one. So this is dirt top here, and this is dirt top texture region. Seems pretty straightforward. So here, for now, let's just do the dumb thing. We can say add image. It is just called image, right? Yeah. And yes. Now we do our dependency injection. We already have assets because of this skin. So we can just say assets dot, and then it's not working. Oh, it's a constructor argument. Now it'll work. Assets dot dirt top texture. Okay. So now, if we turn off debug again, let's see how it looks. Sorry, I was updating the title of the video because this is a little bit inaccurate. Okay, so now we've got this lovely, horrible looking inventory full of this one texture. On the right side, it fits because everything is, happens to be 32 by 32. It's also unshaded. It's also very two-dimensional. Whatever, it works. That's the important part. So now we have our inventory, probably, and we have we have the data portion and we have the visual portion, and now all we need to do is stick them together. Something else that's not covered is like where in your inventory everything is, but we're not going to worry about that right now because that's pretty high up on the nice to have list, but it's still like you can still carry stuff around without it. So let's go ahead and take care of that. Okay. So this HUD isn't a system right now. And it's not supposed to be like, but it does get called from a system on every frame. So what we can do is let's see. So I mean, there's like, if you have your inventory open and you drop an item on the ground out of your inventory, then you want that item to come out of your inventory. So your inventory is not completely static. It does need to be refreshed periodically. So I think what I can do is, and this is pretty wasteful, but I'm going to pull this out into a method, update inventory, or draw inventory, and then we can call it when we need it. So rather than just drawing every image here blindly, we want to say, well, we can just inject the engine. I'm going to keep it. I'm only going to use it as a constructor parameter. And what you can say is private val player inventory equals engine dot get entities for family dot all. And what we're doing is we're going to get the player inventory from all, from every entity that is a player and has an inventory, which is going to be just our main player right now. So if you're a player component and if you have a player component and you have an inventory component, then we want to talk to you. So this is a list of entities. I don't know for sure this is going to work. This might happen. You know what? I'm just going to leave it like this. And we can call this players. So one thing that always confused me was, I forget if I mentioned this before, the engine returns a, when you call get entities for, it returns an immutable array. It's not actually immutable, it's unmodifiable, because it's internally modified by the engine, which means it's not immutable. Anyway, gripe. So down here, now that we have our players object, down here you can say, well, for sure we have a player by here. We say players, which is an array of entities, and we just get the first one, which is an entity, and then we try get, actually we can just say get inventory component. So now this is an inventory. Definitely. And there's items in it here. And so now what we can do is say player inventory dot items. Let's see. So because it's a list, because it's an array list, it's constant time access, which means we can just keep track of an index out here somewhere. Equals 0, and then we can say this is our item stack, and we can say player inventory items IDX. Well, hold on. Let me just take the items list out of this just for convenience. And then we can say, so we have to be careful not to do an array index out of bounds exception right here. So you want to say if IDX less than items.size. No, I guess it's not called items. No, it's called items. If it's less than items.size, then you print it and you get it. Otherwise, null, because that's reasonably safe. So now here, it's an item stack question mark, which means we don't know if it's null or not, which is what we expect. So now we can say if item stack not equal to null, then draw a thing. We're just going to draw our dirt. Otherwise, you can say add. You can add an empty cell. That might be necessary for spacing. So let's see what happens. Oh crap. Okay, well, I forgot to do one thing. That'll be comical. So this is one. Okay, let me just fix that one thing first. IDX ++. Otherwise, it will never be incremented. So this is one thing that is a pitfall that occasionally happens with Juice, and not too often, but sometimes. So here, player controller system injects HUD. HUD injects engine, but in order to build this, I don't know. It's just like engine was instantiated to process this. Whatever. We can just say here in our HUD system, under update, we can say, you know what? When this thing gets added to engine, which doesn't do anything, you can say, okay. So now this sucks a little bit, but I'll live. So, however, that means you don't want to do this because engine won't be defined yet. So instead, we want to say it was an immutable array of entity, and so we want to take care of that, right? I was thinking that there'd be a setter for some reason. I think I can actually just create a setter. Duh. So I don't really need that. Well, all I want is if I do this, I'm passing the engine in, but it's not actually saving the engine because it doesn't need it yet. All it needs is the players. Okay, so players is set, and hopefully this will be fine now. Should be. It was just complaining about engine. Ta-da! Problem sort of solved. So this is what I mean. So now those other cells aren't being created. So I think if I just say add, without providing anything, this might work. Okay. Look, it's starting to look vaguely like an inventory system. Just for fun, I'm going to try to render a number over the top of it. Huh. I wonder... So there's another one called very vaguely container, which is a group with a single child. You know, I might have to do a bit more research on this one. So I don't want text field. I just want label. I want a label that overlaps. I'm just going to see if there's any sort of quick answers for this. Like CNGD naturally allows you to overlap things. Like, if you look at, I mean, if you look at just this, like, this is an image on top of a container. I just want to put something on top of the image. I wonder if I can just, like, I wonder if I can add an actor to the image. That'd be handy. Huh, well, what do you know? I can just add some text. See, that's not what I want. I want it to be on top of it. I doubt this will work, but see what it does. Nope. Okay, let's check the Googles. Oh yeah, stack. First add content, and then add the second thing on top of it. This actually looks, I think, like what I want. Well, I don't want bottom left, I want bottom right. Oh, well, okay, let's give that a shot. So we want to say add stack. Slightly confusing because stack is a data structure, and when you say stack, like the default Java one is like the data structure stack. It's a LIFO queue thing. Of course, we don't want that one right now. We want the like visually like stack of papers. So now we can just say this guy. I run the program a lot because I feel like it helps me make sure that things aren't horribly broken, and also I feel like it potentially grounds viewers and making sure that this is what's happening. So interestingly, when you just add the stack, oh, right, it's not enough to just call. It's not enough to construct the image. You also have to do something with it. You also have to add it. Okay, stack is working how we expect so far. But you can also, so then let's add this guy. Also, I think this is just a label. Not quite. Okay, so let's take this and just see what happens. Overlay widget. What I want to do is stack. So now it sort of defeats the purpose, but you can say, oh right, is this add stack dot add. I mean, I'm going to take this out in a second, but that's just sort of making sure it's working. Oh, table must have a skin set. Whatever, skin. Okay. It was this add method was complaining. Okay, hey, look at that. So it's, I mean, the only details I want it on the right. And instead of the number 1, I want it to be item stack dot mount to string. And yeah, this just creates a label. Well, it's still on the right side. Dum-da-dum. Well, I'm going to call it good for now. So, yeah, so we went from having no inventory whatsoever to now, in 41 minutes later, you can run around, and you can't collect things yet. That's for a future change. But if you click I, then you get your 8x4 inventory, and you can see this is supposed to be wood, but it's just showing dirt for right now, and it has a real number of how many. The number is real for sure. How many dirts I have, or how many lumber I have. Anyway, so I'm gonna call it good for now, but thanks for watching.